But not just any old type of prototype. I love prototypes built in CSS, HTML, and JS. What I want to do in this 5 to 7 minutes, is demo some of the prototypes I've built, and I want to tell you why I think they're so great. I know this is a bit of a mouthful saying all those letters all the time, so I'm just going to call them code-based prototypes for the rest of the thing. So that's one thing that I want to do. The other thing that I want to do, I know this guy's a little bit scary and he looks a bit angry, but I want you guys to have something to take away from this. So I want to give you just a quick overview of the tools I use for this for code-based prototypes, and hopefully you'll be able to have a crack yourself if you haven't done it before. So first things first though, why listen to me? Who am I? My name's Doug. I've been doing code-based prototypes for over 2 years. That's been my go-to method. I've done a bunch of prototyping in a bunch of different sort of mediums, I guess you could say. And this is the one that I feel is the best, depending of course on the situation. But don't just listen to me. You should listen to my stakeholders. So they love paper prototypes so much, I got them to print out this dorky thing and stand in front of a photo and you know, so that they like them as well. So first things first, I'll have a quick definition of a prototype. Like what is it? Because I think different people have slightly different definitions. So I'd call a prototype is a defined artifact that looks and feels like the real thing. To a degree, but it isn't functional. It won't be tied to the back end. Often parts won't work. It'll be different levels of fidelity. So to jump into a prototype that I've been working on, please excuse this as it's a bit of a work in progress, but it'll give you an idea. So this is built in HTML. It looks a little bit like the choice website, which is the website I'm working on. But enough to make you feel that it is indeed a choice website. So it needs a bit of tweaking, but by and large it's there. But most importantly, the interactions work. So you can tell right away what that just did. It's easy for stakeholders to get that. You can even wire this thing into the rest of the website. So if you've got other areas of the website and you're doing things like user testing, you can really easily just sort of give people tasks, and they'll think they're on the website the entire time. So that's cool, that's handy. Right, so I think a lot of you probably would have seen this thing before. As a way of defining what we do as interaction designers, we take users' needs into account, we understand the tech constraints and limitations, and we know what the business objectives are, you know, as designers. So code-based prototypes support all these sort of things quite nicely, so I'll just tell you how, in my opinion. So it supports the users in that you can do usability testing. So usability testing, we all know, is probably the holy grail of the things you can do to validate what you're doing. So an example of that, of how useful that is. So we had a usability task for this banking thing that we're working on, and the task was to find out about make sure the users pay their credit card statements because they were due. So you can see that yellow thing up the top there. It didn't come in right away. So we had tasks where the users none of them noticed that thing. So just by a simple tweak of code, you know, changing a 5 to a 0. We were able to see the little delay there. Every single user saw that on subsequent tests after we made that tweak, which we could do very quickly, by the way. And we solved the problem, and we were able to prove in the test that it worked. Right, so that's users. Let's talk about the business. All right, so. Code-based prototypes are great because you can really easily demonstrate user flows. So our stakeholders, they get what's going on in the prototype immediately. So that's great to articulate your vision and get that all-important buy-in, which you're probably after. It's very easy to share. You just bang it on the server and share the link. And last but by no means least, the prototype can actually just be the spec. So a lot less is lost in translation when you're doing things like writing user stories or functional specifications, and you can just really easily not have that problem. All right, so lastly, tech. Prototypes are awesome because, well, code-based ones are good because you can't get a greater amount of control over the small details in the medium you're probably designing for, if you're designing for the web, which I imagine a lot of you are. You got control over details like timings, animations, the finer points of the layout. It's all there. And what's also quite awesome is you can avoid that problem where you make a really nice comp and it looks beautiful, but you give it to a front-end developer and they interpret it a little bit differently, and it just won't work in the way that you define. So if it's in code, it's already pixel perfect. It's ready to go. And the last thing is you can save a lot of time with these in the long run because the devs already have the code, which they can copy and paste things like styles. They can copy the HTML you've written, and it's all already there. So a few words on how prototypes stack up. I've got a little matrix thing here. So effort, lots of effort, a little bit of effort. Flexibility, how flexible is the prototyping medium. Paper, I'm going to say it's low effort, as we discussed before, but it's not so flexible, but it's really quick, which is awesome. Azure, I put over here. I think that's probably a little bit contentious. I've used Azure. Yeah, maybe I just didn't get shortcuts or something, but
you just want a t-shirt.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Maybe I'll do a tweet, not change one. But it's I find it a little bit inflexible in my experience. Balsamic is great and really quick. Keynote, Sketch, also really handy. But the thing I find with these ones is that you build a prototype and it gets complicated, then you got to go and make a change to it. And if you make a change on one screen, you've got to go back and make changes on 7 other screens, which is just a pain in the ass. So I put these guys up here because I feel like it's probably a lot of effort to make these, but in the long run, you get the most out of it. All right, so back to Uncle Sam. Just real quick, I have 2 tools which I use to make prototypes, which I think makes the thing go really, really quickly and really well. And I use this thing called Twitter Bootstrap, which is a responsive design framework. It means you can make your prototypes responsively. You can make them mobile first, so your code could be ready for desktop, ready for mobile. And the second thing I do is use an IDE called WebStorm, which I know is a bit developer-y, but it's better than Coda. It's better than a bunch of other ones because it's just really quick to use. So that's everything. So you can have your cake, needed too, for these prototypes, I feel. I hope this has been useful for you guys. And if you've got any questions or anything, please feel free to just come up and grab me. Thanks a lot.